Genesis 1-50. Genesis chapter 1, Creation and Purpose. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. We are part of His divine plan, crafted with purpose. Today, let us remember that our lives have meaning, and seek to align ourselves with God's perfect design. Genesis chapter 2, the Garden of Eden. God placed Adam and Eve in a beautiful garden, but they chose to disobey. Today, let us learn from their mistakes, striving to live in obedience and embracing the blessings that come from walking in God's ways. Genesis chapter 3, the fall of humanity. Adam and Eve's disobedience led to the fall of humanity, but God's love and mercy shine through. Today, let us remember that we are not defined by our mistakes, but by the grace that God freely offers. Genesis chapter 4, Cain and Abel. Cain's jealousy led to the tragic death of his brother Abel. Today, let us guard our hearts against envy and embrace a spirit of love and kindness towards others. Genesis chapter 5, the genealogy of Adam. The genealogy of Adam reminds us of the passing of time and the brevity of life. Today, let us cherish each moment and live with purpose, knowing that our lives are part of a greater story. Genesis chapter 6, Noah and the ark. Noah found favor in God's eyes and was chosen to build an ark. Today, let us be faithful and obedient, trusting in God's guidance even when the world around us seems chaotic. Genesis chapter 7, the flood. God's judgment came upon the earth, but Noah and his family were saved. Today, let us remember that God is a God of justice and mercy, and trust in His faithfulness to protect and deliver us. Genesis chapter 8, Noah's covenant. After the flood, God made a covenant with Noah, promising never to destroy the earth again. Today, let us find hope in God's promises, knowing that He is faithful to His word. Genesis chapter 9, the rainbow covenant. God set a rainbow in the sky as a sign of His covenant with Noah. Today, let us be reminded of God's faithfulness and the beauty of His promises, even in the midst of life's storms. Genesis chapter 10, the Table of Nations. The Table of Nations reminds us of the diversity and unity of humanity. Today, let us celebrate our differences and seek to build bridges of understanding and love across cultures and nations. Genesis chapter 11, the Tower of Babel. The people of Babel sought to build a tower to make a name for themselves, but God scattered them. Today, let us humble ourselves and remember that true greatness comes from aligning our ambitions with God's will. Genesis chapter 12, the call of Abraham. God called Abraham to leave his homeland and embark on a journey of faith. Today, let us be open to God's call in our own lives, willing to leave behind our comfort zones and embrace the adventure that awaits us. May we trust that God's plans for us are far greater than we can imagine. Genesis chapter 13, Abraham and Lot. Abraham and Lot faced a conflict over land, but Abraham chose peace and generosity. Today, let us seek harmony in our relationships and be willing to put others' needs before our own. May our actions reflect the love and compassion of Christ. Genesis chapter 14, Abraham's victory. Abraham rescued Lot and defeated the enemy kings. Today, let us remember that we serve a God who fights our battles for us. May we trust in His strength and provision, knowing that He is always with us. Genesis chapter 15, God's covenant with Abraham. God made a covenant with Abraham, promising him descendants as numerous as the stars. Today, let us hold on to God's promises, even in times of doubt and uncertainty. May we have faith that God is faithful to fulfill His word. Genesis chapter 16, Hagar and Ishmael. Sarah's impatience led to the birth of Ishmael through Hagar. Today, let us learn from their story and trust in God's timing. May we resist the temptation to take matters into our own hands and instead wait upon the Lord. Genesis chapter 17, the covenant of circumcision. God established circumcision as a sign of His covenant with Abraham. Today, let us remember that true circumcision is of the heart, symbolizing our commitment to follow God wholeheartedly. May we seek a deep, intimate relationship with Him. Genesis chapter 18, Abraham's intercession for Sodom. Abraham pleaded with God to spare Sodom and Gomorrah. Today, let us be people of prayer, interceding for those in need and standing in the gap for others. May we have compassion and a heart for justice, just as Abraham did. Genesis chapter 19, Destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. Sodom and Gomorrah were destroyed due to their wickedness, but Lot and his family were rescued. Today, let us remember the consequences of sin and strive to live righteous lives. May we be a light in the darkness, pointing others to Christ. Genesis chapter 20, Abraham and Abimelech. Abraham deceived Abimelech, but God protected him and his wife Sarah. Today, let us be people of integrity, choosing honesty and righteousness in all our dealings. May our actions reflect the character of God. Genesis chapter 21, the birth of Isaac. Sarah gave birth to Isaac, fulfilling God's promise. Today, let us trust in God's faithfulness and provision, even when circumstances seem impossible. May we hold on to the hope that God will fulfill His promises in our lives. Genesis chapter 22, Abraham's test of faith. God tested Abraham by asking him to sacrifice Isaac. Today, let us learn from Abraham's unwavering faith and obedience. May we be willing to surrender our most precious possessions to God and trust in His perfect plan. Genesis chapter 23, Sarah's death and burial. Sarah passed away, and Abraham purchased a burial site for her. Today, let us remember the brevity of life and cherish our loved ones. May we live with a sense of urgency, making the most of every opportunity to love and serve others. Genesis chapter 24, Isaac and Rebekah. Abraham sent his servant to find a wife for Isaac, and God led him to Rebekah. Today, let us seek God's guidance in our relationships, trusting that He knows what is best for us. May we be patient and discerning, allowing God to write our love stories. Genesis chapter 25, the birth of Esau and Jacob. Esau and Jacob were born, and their lives took different paths. Today, let us remember that God has a unique plan and purpose for each of us. May we embrace our own journey and trust in God's timing and direction. Genesis chapter 26, Isaac's deception and blessing. Isaac deceived Abimelech, but God still blessed him. Today, let us remember that God's blessings are not dependent on our own righteousness. May we strive to live with honesty and integrity, knowing that God sees our hearts. Genesis chapter 27, Jacob's deception and blessing. Jacob deceived his father Isaac to receive his blessing. Today, let us learn from Jacob's mistake and seek to honor God in all our actions. May we trust in His provision and timing, rather than resorting to deceit. Genesis chapter 28, Jacob's dream at Bethel. Jacob had a dream at Bethel, where God reaffirmed His covenant with him. Today, let us be open to God's presence and guidance in our own lives. May we seek His direction and trust in His promises, knowing that He is with us wherever we go. Genesis chapter 29, Jacob marries Leah and Rachel. Jacob married Leah and Rachel, but faced challenges in his relationships. Today, let us learn from Jacob's story and strive for healthy, loving relationships. May we value and respect others, seeking to build strong foundations based on trust. Genesis chapter 30, Jacob's prosperity and family. In this chapter, we see Jacob's prosperity and the growth of his family. Despite challenges and conflicts, God blesses Jacob with many children and livestock. Today, let us remember that God is faithful to His promises and can bring abundance even in the midst of difficulties. May we trust in His provision and remain steadfast in our faith, knowing that He is working all things together for our good. Genesis chapter 31, Jacob's departure. Jacob left Laban's household, and God protected him on his journey. Today, let us trust in God's guidance and protection as we step out into new seasons of life. May we have the courage to leave behind what is familiar and embrace the unknown, knowing that God goes before us. Genesis chapter 32, Jacob wrestles with God. Jacob wrestled with God and received a new name, Israel. Today, let us be persistent in seeking God's presence and wrestling with Him in prayer. May we surrender our own strength and rely on His power to transform us. Genesis chapter 33, Jacob and Esau's reconciliation. Jacob and Esau reconciled after years of estrangement. Today, let us pursue reconciliation in our relationships, letting go of bitterness and extending forgiveness. May we experience the healing and restoration that comes from embracing grace. Genesis chapter 34, Dinah's defilement. Dinah's encounter with Shechem brought shame upon her family. Today, let us guard our hearts and protect our purity. May we honor God in our relationships and seek His wisdom in navigating the complexities of love and intimacy. Genesis chapter 35, Jacob returns to Bethel. Jacob returned to Bethel, where God reaffirmed His covenant with him. Today, let us remember the importance of returning to the place of encounter with God. May we seek His presence and renew our commitment to Him, experiencing His faithfulness and grace. Genesis chapter 36, the descendants of Esau. The genealogy of Esau reminds us of God's faithfulness to His promises. Today, let us trust in God's sovereignty, even when we don't understand His ways. May we have faith that He is working out His plans for our lives and for the generations to come. Genesis chapter 37, Joseph's dreams. Joseph's dreams stirred jealousy among his brothers. Today, let us celebrate the dreams and callings God has placed within us, even if they are met with opposition. May we trust in His timing and purpose, knowing that He will fulfill His plans for us. Genesis chapter 38, Judah and Tamar. Judah's encounter with Tamar reveals the consequences of deceit and immorality. Today, let us strive for honesty and integrity in all areas of our lives. May we learn from the mistakes of others and choose righteousness, even in the face of temptation. Genesis chapter 39, Joseph's temptation and imprisonment. Joseph faced temptation and was unjustly imprisoned, yet God was with him. Today, let us stand firm in our faith, even in the midst of trials and adversity. May we trust that God can turn our darkest moments into opportunities for growth and redemption. Genesis chapter 40, Joseph interprets dreams. Joseph interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker. Today, let us use our gifts and talents to serve others and bring glory to God. May we be attentive to the needs of those around us, offering hope and encouragement through our words and actions. Genesis chapter 41, Joseph's rise to power. Joseph's interpretation of Pharaoh's dreams led to his promotion as a ruler in Egypt. Today, let us trust in God's providence and timing, even when our circumstances seem bleak. May we remain faithful and diligent in our work, knowing that God can elevate us to places of influence. Genesis chapter 42, Joseph's brothers go to Egypt. Joseph's brothers went to Egypt to buy grain, unknowingly encountering their long-lost brother. Today, let us be open to the unexpected ways in which God works in our lives. May we embrace opportunities for reconciliation and restoration, extending grace and forgiveness to those who have wronged us. Genesis chapter 43, Joseph's brothers returned to Egypt. Joseph's brothers returned to Egypt, bringing their youngest brother Benjamin. Today, let us be willing to take risks and step out in faith, even when the path ahead is uncertain. May we trust that God is leading us and will provide for our every need. Genesis chapter 44, Joseph tests his brothers. Joseph tested his brothers' integrity by framing Benjamin for theft. Today, let us examine our own hearts and motives, seeking to live with integrity and honesty. May we be people of character, even when faced with difficult choices. Genesis chapter 45, Joseph reveals himself. Joseph revealed his true identity to his brothers, extending forgiveness and reconciliation. Today, let us be agents of reconciliation, seeking to mend broken relationships and restore what has been lost. May we embrace the power of forgiveness, just as Joseph did. Genesis chapter 46, Jacob's journey to Egypt. Jacob and his family journeyed to Egypt, where God promised to make them into a great nation. Today, let us trust in God's promises, even when the path ahead is uncertain. May we have faith that He is leading us to a place of fulfillment and blessing. Genesis chapter 47, Joseph's leadership in Egypt. Joseph's leadership in Egypt saved many lives during a time of famine. Today, let us use our influence and resources to bring hope and help to those in need. May we be compassionate and generous, reflecting the heart of Christ in our actions. Genesis chapter 48, Jacob blesses Ephraim and Manasseh. Jacob blessed Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, reversing the birthright. Today, let us remember that God's ways are not our ways, and His blessings are not limited by human expectations. May we trust in His sovereignty and embrace the unexpected ways in which He chooses to work. Genesis chapter 49, Jacob's blessings. To his sons Jacob prophesied over his sons, speaking blessings and warnings. Today, let us consider the legacy we are leaving for future generations. May we live with intentionality, seeking to honor God and bless others through our words and actions. Genesis chapter 50, Joseph's forgiveness and reunion. Joseph forgave his brothers and was reunited with his father, Jacob. Today, let us learn from Joseph's example of forgiveness and reconciliation. May we release the hurts of the past and embrace the healing and restoration that comes through extending grace.